Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today we are doing the first ever episode of the Double Critical podcast coming to you. I am your host. I am Tim, otherwise known as Crabbok, and with me is Sean. Sean, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Tim.
All right.
One day.
I see you're repping the Double Crit Search the Double Crit shirt, which is pretty cool.
And actually, this is a really comfy hoodie too. Like, I like it.
Very cool. So since this is our first episode, I think there's a couple of things I kind of want to just kind of establish in case somebody is watching this and just wonders what it's all about, because there's a lot of podcasts out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is going to be primarily dedicated to Star Wars Legion. And what are the things that we're going to do to make this one different is, instead of talking about strategy, buyer's guides, the latest news, and a lot of the things that I think all the other podcasts kind of have those things covered, right?
Yeah, they're doing pretty well too. Well,
I think so. And I don't want to take away anything that the other podcasts have. So this one is going to be talking about wish lists. Things like I've always like one of my favorite parts of talking about these games is like, well, could you imagine if they did this? Could you imagine if they did, like, how often do you and I sit around?
Well, just talk like, hey, if they added this in, what would this force look like? What would the squad composition like?
Could you imagine? Oh my goodness, what if they, put fruit-wielding ninjas throwing bananas and apples at everybody? So, with all of those thoughts and all of those kitchen table discussions that we've had, I decided, let's put that into a podcast and see if we can harness that for the power of good rather than the power of evil. So, with that said, I decided, the name Double Critical actually reflects the inspiration for this first episode, and that's where we're going to be, what we're going to be talking about. Also, I want to put a disclaimer out there as well. Sean, you and I both, none of us are playtesters currently. We do not have any knowledge of things that are coming. We're not playing with a loaded deck here. We have no knowledge of what is coming.
Yep, that should be sailed.
Right, and now we did once upon a time. We used to play test, and and that has totally ended, and a long time ago. We have no idea what's coming anymore, and it's actually a really exciting time.
Yeah, the seeing the new units, like, oh man, this is really fun. Rather than like, I see that I've maybe played with a little bit, and now I have to wait 7 more months.
Right. So, we both kind of got out of the playtesting arena a long time ago, and one of the payoffs for that was that at some point there's going to be stuff coming out that we have no idea. And we're at that point now, which is, it's really exciting, but it really kind of is a motivation to, like, I wonder what's going to come next. And I think we could never really talk about that too much before, because at a certain point we kind of knew when Legion first came out. Like, I knew some of the things that were coming out, and it wasn't fun because you couldn't really speculate.
Yeah, now keeping those secrets in hurts a lot.
It does. So now we can totally speculate and guess. I'd say a lot of what we guess may be wrong, but a lot of it may be right. And that's the second kind of disclaimer, is that anything that we guess, we're just guessing. This is just for fun. We're not copywriting these ideas or going to claim ownership of, I was the first person that said something should have a double critical, but then Fantasy Flight eventually went and did a double critical. So what? What? Good. I hereby give permission for all of these ideas to be used in games, and I don't care. I don't expect any credit or whatever. We're just doing this for fun, and so be
it. I wouldn't want to hurt the game that I love playing. I want them, if I have a good idea and hey, we want to work off that, that's good with me.
That's very cool. Yeah. So say we all. Wait, no, that's Battlestar Galactica.
Well, we got to go with Star Wars now. Like, I have spoken.
Oh, that's true. This is
now we have Star Wars references we can use.
This is the way. All right. So So this episode is episode 1, the Double Critical. Is the name of this particular episode. So named after the podcast itself, kind of like a lot of bands will do their first album named after themselves. And it's based off of the surge mechanic. You look at enough of the units that are out there and you see like, okay, well, hey, some people have surge to hit, some people have surge to crit, some people have the defensive surge.
Some people have no surge.
Yeah, and some people have no surge. But outside of those four options, you don't see anything else. And I've, kind of really wanted to see something kind of crazy. And so I came up with the surge to double crit. And so we're not just talking about surge to double crit as like, hey, this should be a mechanic, but that's one thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about all kinds of different things that you could do with surge or with dice as a whole. And so it's just like basically new dice effects is kind of the theme for this particular episode.
Go defensive and defensive, offensive. I think the surge has a very versatility to it, that it doesn't have to be just it's a hit or a crit. It could be something else.
Right.
There's many things we can do.
So the first thing, we'll look at the namesake out of the way. Surge to double crit. So I think it'd be a really cool ability if somebody did have that. So when you're converting surges, every surge you roll now is actually better than a crit because it's actually adding 2 critical damage. Now, I get that sounds crazy strong, and I don't think there's anything, since this is just, theory crafting and wish listing, I don't think there's nothing's off the table, right? I probably wouldn't do surge to like 100 damage or anything like that, but hey, 2 damage for 1 surge. There's a lot of different ways that you could make it work, but at the same time, you have to acknowledge the fact that has the potential to be incredibly strong. Yep. So there are probably ways to balance some kind of effect like that.
They've always done, the Legion designers have always done very well balancing. Hey, you have this great benefit. There might be a drawback, or there might be a mechanic you have to employ to get it to work right.
Right. If something's going to be really strong, maybe it requires, hey, you need to have this in your list also. So you have to if you build a whole list around something, then maybe it will work. The first thing,
like the Overwatch chain, being able to Overwatch off of clones and everything like that. You have to put points into it. You have to put practice into it.
Practice is another important part here. But now with the surge, I think it's probably less about practice because you are kind of relying on it. The first thing that came to mind is like, what type of unit would use something like this? I thought Darth Maul would be cool, and the reason I think Darth Maul would be a contender for something like this is, it's a little bit thematic because he's got a double-bladed saber. So maybe a surge for him is, he hits with, like, he does a 1-2, right? Like, that's, that could be thematic. You may have to restrict it to only a single instance. Like, maybe instead of a double crit, it's actually surged to maybe an asterisk that references a different power. Like, you may count one of your crits as 2 damage instead of 1 or something like that.
A little variant, like, hey, this is how you make that work.
Right. But if you went with just straight up surge to double crit, I think you would have to give him white dice, or maybe a single red and a couple of white. But you would be a very much of a risky move. Like, it would involve that really low floor, but that really high ceiling.
I agree. You have to you limit the dice, because that way you don't if you give him like 5 white dice, that's possible, like 10 damage, because you could have theoretically all surges. But you limit the dice and give him one good one just to balance it out. It's going to work a little bit better. And
on top of that, crits have that natural ability that they can't be canceled by dodges or anything like that. And, by most dodges, we've got new mechanics now that can cancel a dodge. Yep. So there's also the question of how exactly would you, how would the rules reference, deliberately spell this out, because you can't physically turn a die to a double crit side. Right. So would surge that, it would almost need its own rules reference guide if it was implemented like this. Maybe you would turn it to a crit, and you would take another die, set that in your pool to the crit face of the same color. So you could be this way, if somebody does spend a dodge to resolve a crit through one of the new effects, or maybe a command card that allows that to happen, then you're only actually able to get rid of a single crit from that.
Yeah. So and that it gives it a little bounce, like, hey, it's a risky maneuver, but you will pay off in the long, or you pay off in that, you're beating one of the mechanics that maybe was frustrating you before.
Yeah, it'd be good against Tauntauns or any unit that's or maybe the new Rebel Republic tank if you're running who's the new Jedi? Plo Koon, yeah, so maybe he's doing a big run for your deployment zone for an objective, and you go after him. He's like, he's got 4 dodges. It's okay. I've got surge to double crit, and I've got 2 aims, or something like that. So it also makes fishing for crits way more rewarding.
Oh yeah, they give the always that high of like, hey, I'm gonna roll this, maybe I get the crit. You get surge, even better.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like that could be a really fun mechanic to have,
Yep.
especially if you want to make somebody even more powerful.
See, I would. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
No.
I was gonna say like, but I feel like there's a risk in doing that too, though, because from a certain point of view, who's maybe the most powerful character in the Star Wars universe? Palpatine, and he's already in the game. So they've kind of already established a ceiling now. Palpatine is very strong. So that's why I say like you couldn't do like you'd have to do either less dice or worse dice if you're going to have an effect. Like I could see maybe Yoda as another option for somebody who has the potential to have a higher ceiling than Palpatine, but maybe a much lower average.
On the infantry side, I was thinking like Battlefront 2 is a good inspiration weapon. Some of the weapons charge up, so you have that big blast feature. And the risk in that is maybe you actually might get if you do a surge to double crit, there's a penalty. You have a chance to die or get wounded. So if you have like a hero character, they get take a wound on like a clamor roll a white dice. You get a block, you take a wound.
Yeah, or it could just be a mandatory thing.
Be real deadly.
Yeah, it could even be mandatory. Like if you do trigger the surge to double crit, for each time you do it, you take a wound at the end of combat or something like that.
Oh, or like a chance to wound. So just to make it like because I guarantee wound could be like real. Could be like.
Well, I guess it depends. If you put it on like a core, if you put it on a cheaper unit, then that's still really strong though, because sometimes like, hey, if you have the choice and like, hey, I've absolutely positively got to kill you now, and it means sacrificing all but one of my guys. Sure,
Yeah, that could be really like the idea like, hey, I used it twice, roll 2 white dice, 2 blocks, the gun blows up, and 2 guys go. You made that choice.
that could be fun. I could see adding extra rolls, maybe slowing the game down a little bit, but the thematic aspect of it would certainly be there.
Exactly. Like we're going like double cripple, like do lightsabers. That could work, with the exploding weapon as well.
Sure. I mean, and you could do,
or maybe like overcharge once. So you can only do it once.
Right.
And or overcharge 2, so you can only do it twice. Can't do it 3 times.
And you make it a printed keyword, so then it's stackable. So this same concept could work for other things. Like you could do search that just double hit. This way, it still doesn't get through armor. Like that may be a more balanced approach, or
like getting through cover. Hey, okay, that's my heavy cover shot. Was that surge right there? That's great.
Or surge to double block, since the defensive dice tends to have more, more blanks on them. That might be that. So I think like the idea of giving surge multiple results is kind of the first part of this episode, and that's like there's definitely a lot of different ways that this could work. I think super powerful and unique users are probably the best, at least in my opinion, the best way. We have so many Jedi to explore also.
Yeah, so you have the best EU and normal canon too.
Oh yeah, there's so many to explore. There's so many out there, even Inquisitors, and there's a lot more Saber users coming, and then the High Republic is coming too. So there's
that'd be a neat faction.
You can't just have every Jedi that comes eventually just be like a carbon cop, like a mixture of the things we see on Obi-Wan, Luke, and Vader, and Dooku.
So far, they've done great making every lightsaber wielding character relatively different.
But they also still fit into a similar bubble.
Exactly,
So at a certain point, you're gonna have to change the shape of that bubble, and this is, I think, a way to do that.
I think they've done great with keywords too, where like you can make a keyword where like X keyword where it's not going to always be overpowered, but it can be very handy, and that way you can apply it to many different ways. So they have a versatility in there already kind of built in.
Exactly, and that's actually a good segue into the next variation of the surge ability. Is instead of just putting dice symbols on there, maybe you turn a surge into a keyword. So instead you erase the double crit, you put some type of keyword in there. Maybe surge for Pierce 1. Now that surge doesn't actually add a damage anymore, right? Like you had some ideas on this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. It's that you are trading off the damage for maybe a better shot. So you might have only 2 hits, but you at least have Pierce 1. Mm-hmm. I would say too, like defensive wise, like defense is, I don't say it's boring, but like I rolled a block, I block it. Well, what if you roll a block and because you're attacking a battle, maybe what's her name with the antenna head, Aura Singh?
Yeah,
she has like electro web, so she throws it on you and she blocks you, get an immobilized token.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah,
this creature and you hit it, you block and you get a poison token.
That's fantastic. Like in a way that's mirroring kind of how Vader and Luke and stuff have deflect, right?
Yep.
It gives you like maybe something that's not necessarily as bad, but gives you that chance. And because I guess that was like the first instance of them kind of doing Surge to do something outside of just convert a die. So it's kind of building off of that. Now, it may, in the case of, in the case of Jedi with deflect, it's being referenced by a keyword. So, you could have a keyword that just says, oh, if you roll Surge, you can do this. But I'm kind of cool with the idea of them literally writing a word next to the Surge symbol if they wanted to do something like that, like Pierce 1. So if you roll 2 Surge, that means you now have Pierce 2. However, you also have less damage because your Surge don't count as damage. Now,
exactly, you still limit that dice pool. So like, hey, you have a maximum like Pierce 3, but you only have 2 damage to go through.
Right. Well, and this is like a thing that could work really well with like clones or anybody that's got fire support, because I've got like let's take the Imperial and the Rebel fire support options. So they've got critical 1, critical 2. So now you have different things you can do with your Surge. I want this Surge to be Pierce 1. I want this Surge to be a crit.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be, and then this makes the game like you had to. Sometimes I think randomness really helps the games be more just crazy. Like hey, I had to react to my environment around. It's not just I'm playing chess. A beats B, B beats C. It's no, hey, A through 5 did this. Now I have to work on it. So,
right. We were talking a little bit about some RPG elements too. Like you talked about like full auto or something like that.
So, yeah. I think I introduced you to the Star Wars RPG, and I've played a few games in it. And one of the things they have in there is advantage and threat. And usually you can, for a main, we'll talk about advantage because it's player oriented. You can spend 1 or 2 advantage to do different things. So what if you can spend 2 Surge to do, I think I said full auto. You get to repeat the dice pool that you just had, just roll it again, can't modify it or anything. You get a second shot because you're going full gun on that weapon.
You'd certainly have to say that the next shot doesn't have full auto though. You'd have to cap it as a second
auto 1. So you have this one instance.
Yeah, no, that could be really strong because you'd almost, it's almost like Arsenal. Yeah, or actually no, it's almost like Barrage, I should say, because Barrage.
It's true,
but it's not a guaranteed Barrage. So it would be a way to give somebody Barrage without it being guaranteed. And I think you'd have to give it to a unit that doesn't have any natural way to get aims, because obviously you'd fish for the Surge, right? So you would make
like it a free pool, not all reds.
Right. It would be that could be really interesting. So
with that question, would they still have natural Surge on them, and then it's a keyword on the weapon, or
you could make it a combination of both?
Because then that'd be a way to balance it. Yeah, I get to roll my dice pool again, but I don't have Surge anyway, so I'm really relying on those natural hits.
Yeah, I think if you were doing it for a Barrage type effect, I think you would have to give them the worst. You'd have to make them have a reflectively weaker attack pool to make up for the fact. And of course, this does totally depend on who you're giving it to. If you're giving it to, let's say they do Mandalorian. Right, okay. IG-11 was awesome. Right, so let's apply this to a use case. IG-11 kind of does that, I'm shooting everybody or whatever. So he might be a great candidate for that. Or even IG-88, since IG-88 is probably more likely to come out sooner.
Cara Dune with her heavy weapon. She is a big old gun.
She does, absolutely. So you can do maybe a named, a more expensive character. They can have a medium attack pool, like maybe like two black and 3 white, something like that. With but no offensive Surge. And then that Surge ability, if you roll 1 Surge, you can perform 1 extra attack. Maybe it has to be against the same target.
That's I think.
That would limit the.
You can point it somewhere else. But I think for Legion wise, I think it'd be the same target.
Yeah, same target could work. This way, if you kill the target, it's useless. Right, so you're putting a cap, although that would make it great against enemy commanders or high value targets, but it wouldn't be as good against vehicles because you don't have a Surge to crit, or you wouldn't have impact or anything like that. So you'd have to really limit the offensive keywords you have on a unit like that.
Yeah, and we don't want to stomp over other, like you said, you don't want to target another unit because that's gunslinger territory. So you gotta make sure we don't override the old rules.
And yeah, exactly. And Man, gunslinger's a good keyword too.
It's a really good keyword.
It is a really good keyword.
Yeah,
well, but yeah, and it's given me, like, thinking about all these different characters too is making me think about more potential topics for other videos too. Because we could talk Mandalorian all day long. Maybe that'll be a different episode, and let us know in the comments below, like what topics you'd like to see, like wish list
that'd be cool.
theory
crafting. That gives you more ideas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I could see like Solo, like there's so many like skullduggery kind of elements going on in that.
Mm-hmm.
Great, all sorts of ideas. Like, or like even Surge wise, like he had the what is her name? All I know is by Khaleesi. I forgot her name.
Oh yes, Kira.
Kira, yeah, she has like the vibro knife at the end. She's got all of her like semi Jedi kung fu thing going on. Or
Teras Kasi. Oh my
goodness. That would be a great like martial art, like
Yes, Teras Kasi could be a Surge ability. Like Teras Kasi, you may convert. When you convert Surge, you may do. Well, how about this?
All right,
here we go. I'm going to throw one at you.
All right,
the exploding die. And by the exploding die, some games use this before, right? Marvel Crisis Protocol has this. They have a die with a little an exclamation point on there, and when you roll it, it counts as a damage, or it counts as a success. But on your initial roll, for every one of those you rolled, you get to add one more die of the same type. So maybe you give a character Surge that explodes only if it's on the initial roll before any rerolls. So
that could be a lot of fun. Like
that could be really nasty.
This explosive character, you really have to chance like, oh man, do I attack them? And then they get that double defense, and I can't do anything to them anyways, or do I focus down? That could be really fun.
At the same point, it would be a vastly different type of mechanic depending on how you build their Surge pool, because if they've got Surge to hit also in, do you have to spend the Surge, if the Surge is nothing, then, having extra dice, well, okay, that just means the Surge is just a chance at basically a reroll. So,
it also helps out aggressive tactics in the sense of like, hey, now like you having
excellent, yes,
having tokens on them for Rebels or Imperials.
Surge tokens now have a lot more use if you're doing different things with Surges, where it's on a unit that doesn't have a Surge to crit or Surge to hit.
I'll admit, like as a role player, I play with a lot of Rebel units that have Surge to hit and Surge to defense, so I never use aggressive tactics.
Right,
but like it can definitely that'll be a way to use it.
There are very few options right now for the Rebels to make excellent use of aggressive tactics, and so having units that have Surge triggers some type of effect but doesn't actually convert on its own is a great opportunity to make aggressive tactics, and also the Jedi version, the
Force Guidance.
Force Guidance, yeah. Like, I don't think that many people take Force Guidance now, and because usually the characters that can take Force Guidance will have a leadership ability also, and then it's like, I really don't want to take Force Guidance also, but it's a cool ability. I tried it once or twice when the card first dropped, and it is kind of cool, but there's just, it's trumped by a lot of other things, especially aggressive tactics, which gives you twice as many tokens. So,
and it's not exhaustible too.
Right. So if you had a really good reason to have multiple Surge on a character, because those that Surge is giving you extra dice in your pool, but you don't spend it, then all of a sudden that can turn in. It's a really likely chance that you're going to be able to spend it.
Yeah. Another thing too, limiting factor is like if you do have like a very powerful ability, make it because they have the new thing with the vital assets where you expend. It's not exhaust. It's an expend. Make expendable.
Oh, like a once per game.
Once per game, yeah.
Right.
So hey, this attack will be this. So you're making
high explosive shells, right? You put that on a core unit. It's a one-time Surge to double crit. Maybe it costs 10 because it might be that time where you really need it, but it's once per game, and then once you use it, it's gone.
Interacts with Marksman, because now, I know they don't have rules for it. Maybe you could upgrade to a Surge or something with Marksman.
Ooh, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Yeah. Oh no, but Marksman you can't. Marksman can. It's in the rules reference right now, so you can only upgrade from a blank to a hit, and a hit to a crit. Now they could, in theory, add another Marksman thing where you could upgrade from a crit to a double crit, but Since there's no die that has a double crit printed on it, I think the rules for double crit would be if you surge to double crit, you can just add an extra die to your results pool. Yeah, that's the cleanest way to do it as far as rules, because there's so many other things that are going to interact with a die. Like Armada has this. So Armada has effects that will remove one die from your attackers, like a defensive card, cancel one die that the attacker rolled. Well, since Armada does have dice that have double hits or a hit and a crit on them, obviously you go for that first because you're getting rid of 2 damage with 1 dice. But Legion doesn't have that.
That'd be an interesting mechanic too, like as say adding the extra dice, and then also like with Armada, like because Armada has critical effects. Mm-hmm. So maybe along those lines, it's like saying Surge has a keyword of a critical effect. Like hey, when you do Surge, you also get Blast or something.
Sure. All right, so let's kind of steer the discussion more to the defensive side here.
All right,
and because we talked a little bit about Surge for maybe double block also, which sounds strong.
Yeah.
Especially if you combo it with other things, like you couldn't have it with somebody with impervious or danger sense or something like that, right? Like unless of course you wanted to make like maybe a Mace Windu ultra defensive unkillable master or something like that.
I see was it a Chirrut Imwe as he walks like towards the thing.
That could be a command card ability.
Oh yeah, command card with it. That's a great way to limit too, because now it's like, hey, it's a once per game.
I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. His 1 pip. He's 1 pip because he's one with the Force, right?
That's so good.
That would be that would work, right? And this is why we put this disclaimer in there, because they may have come up with that on their own anyway, not from us, right? Like that's
we don't want to take that away.
That's a no brainer. If he's 1 with the Force, you're not going to make it a 2 pip. He's not 2 with the Force, right?
Oh god.
But yeah, so that's a really cool idea. But yes, but no, I like limiting these type of effects to command cards is a great way to restrict their use and keep them from being as overpowered. Although I do really think Maul would be great with Surge to double crit, but
because he has that. To me, he's always had like that. He's got like the assassin like feel, like in Phantom Menace. He has that I'm behind you and you're dead already kind of thing. Like,
maybe he only gets it if he's wounded.
Ooh,
because he's angry, right?
That would be cool. That'd be and that'd be like encourage like
dude.
Like, or like anger like the car, like all sorts of stuff.
This is I really want Maul in this game. Yeah,
I know. I mean, I want him in different versions because I think you mentioned that too. Like you could have Siege of Mandalore version, and you can have Phantom Menace version. Heck, I want an old man Maul.
They could do a lot, but I think the 2 biggest ones are like a Maul who can wield the Darksaber and lead Mandalore, or lead Death Watch at least.
Yeah,
that one would be Commander Maul. And then of course, I think if you do Episode 1 Maul, he's obviously an operative, kind of doing his own thing.
I think he never really interacted with anybody.
He didn't, but he did have some authority because he did stay on Naboo while the Trade Federation was there, and they were like he was technically. They still would have had to answer to him if because Palp is like, I'll send this guy, So like,
Commander Crime Boss Maul too. I think that would be cool.
No, that's absolutely, but that could be for a whole different faction. Like once we get into sub factions, it's going to open the door for a lot of that. And I think sub factions is worth an episode or even 2 episodes all on its own. So that will be probably a future episode as well. So we were talking about defensive Surge. Surge the double block could be really strong. Like just like we talked with everything else, I figured the same mechanics, like adding an extra block.
Yep.
And that's especially useful for Pierce, because Pierce is one of those effects that does cancel a block result. Well, you can't just cancel a single die, so like that could be really good against Pierce defensiveness without necessarily making you immune to Pierce.
Yep.
But there's more ways that we can do it, right? You could certainly, if you wanted to make a unit that didn't have any defensive Surge, you could certainly put like an asterisk there and say, all right, when you roll a Surge, you can gain immunity to Pierce this turn. Okay. So like a Royal Guard, like if they made a Royal Guard 2.0, all right, or something like that. Like that's maybe an idea. But what about instead of using Surge, what about a unit that just has more than 1 defense die? Because you see the little defense die printed there, but all we've ever seen is a white or a red.
Or white or reds, yeah.
Yeah, because there's no, they never made black defense dice.
Yeah, I don't think they can at this point. I think it's like right.
I know that would have been
in between, because a red with a Surge is basically a 3-up, right?
Well, it's you. Yeah, you have two blanks on the red. I feel like it's almost a missed opportunity. Like I wonder if at any point in this game they originally had like a black and then a red defense die. Maybe the red defense die was too strong. I mean, like I feel like they could do a middle ground. They could have probably done a red, black, and white. You know,
they could, but multiple defense dice, or it'd be kind of interesting with multiple defense dice, like and since it's already been done, but like the weak points, like hey, you attack a certain point, and that gives you instead of a black or red dice, you have a white dice. That could be
strong point. Maybe strong point front.
Strong point. There we go. Strong point.
When somebody attacks you from the front, you gain an extra. Well, I think Luke has something like that, right? Like he rolls an extra white die for every surge he's got, or everything.
He's a 2-pip, right?
Yeah, operative. I haven't even gotten a chance to run operative Luke yet, but so I forget the specific syntax of the card. But there are mechanics out there that give you extra defense dice. What you run Jin all the time, Danger Sense. So it would kind of be along. It doesn't make a unit unkillable, especially.
Absolutely not.
Especially if they're rolling white dice as is. Yeah. And especially if they're not immune to pierce.
But if you give them a limited red dice, it can make that, make just that little bit of difference.
Well, I mean, imagine, like, it would be, I think it would, taking it to the extreme, imagine if you gave, a powerful Sith Lord 2 red dice for his defense. Like, that seems like that's the extreme, and that's way too strong. You'd have to have a really good reason to do that.
You would, like, why? So double defense dice would be a very big you discourage people from attacking that unit unless there was some kind of twist. I want to say to what point or weak point.
There's let's what would be a use case of the let's just say double red defense die. Maybe a unit that has virtually no offense, so it's somebody you could afford to ignore.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Maybe like a really heavily armored Gonk droid that has secret mission. Maybe it's restricted that you only get it against ranged attacks, so you want to go in and melee it.
Okay. Okay, there we go. So the twist that makes it a little bit less.
Right. So instead of I know because if I just walked into a group and said, "Hey guys, have you ever thought about a unit with 2 red defense dice per damage?" You immediately be dismissed. But like here, we'll walk it out
we're gonna talk about this.
Yeah, because of course any ability, I believe that any idea or rule, no matter how crazy, can work if it's costed appropriately. In some cases, that might mean this unit has to cost 400 points, right? Which makes it pretty much not playable. But I mean, there's always a middle ground.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if we want to do spoilers because there's the new Clone Wars stuff out.
I'd kind of rather stick away from that just yet because
Go with Gungans. Gungans have those energy shields.
Right.
Maybe it's an exhaustible. For one, you exhaust it and you get, an extra red defense dice, or something, or 2 extra red defense dice because you exhaust it.
But a cap, not per damage.
Exactly.
Right. And that sounds because look, Danger Sense you see in limited quantities, and there's a price for that because you have to have suppression. Although it's an easily paid price because the stuff that has Danger Sense usually is built around mechanics that work with suppression, like Dauntless, and Jin and Cassian's command cards, which help them deal with suppression, like Indomitable and things like that. So, the price, if Gungans had, like, let's say some type of shield had it, the cost would be the exhaust and then potentially the eventual recovery.
It can make difference because we have those energy shields coming out for the BX droids. They've already spoiled those,
right?
So they just have straight shield or tokens. So maybe this is instead of an energy shield, let's make this a metal plate shield or something. That's why it has a different effect than those energy shields.
Sure. Well, also it's different technology. The Gungans have magic, right? They had that orb. Like, did we ever find out what that orb was at the end of Phantom Menace?
My brain went bad for a second, but is this chemical mass they all compile in and it blow? It's like
it was a bomb. It was they
a bomb. They did a homemade bomb.
They were trying. It was another assassination attempt on Padme's life, but
exactly.
So basically, all right. But let's go back to the idea of maybe somebody with 2 red dice. Taking that extreme, it could be somebody that has virtually no attack, so it's balanced that way. So maybe maybe it's a secret mission, or maybe it's a combat unit that's going to come in there and just disrupt and be hard to kill.
Meant to draw that a command card that pulls hey, you have to fire at this unit for
distract. Right.
Distract. There we go. Yeah. like kind of like a Hans card, a little bit.
Maybe something like that. But I think more likely you might have, 2 white, or even a red and a white. Like you could do. There's enough room on that card for you to put like a red and a white die right next to each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that would still be crazy strong.
They're like right behind it. It'd look really cool.
Yeah, it'd be crazy strong. So I think 2 white is probably the most reasonable way that you could do something like that, and it would still be very strong. But I think the natural counter to that would be small attacks. Like Han Solo's gunslinger, right? I got 2 dice at you, boom, it's pierce 2. Okay, you might roll 4, but with white dice, I'm still gonna get you.
Yep, exactly.
But it gives you a chance against even pierce, because if I roll all 4 blocks, you'll still pierce 2. I'm blocking the other 2 damage. Yeah. So like I could see that, and that would be, but against like maybe a Z6 shot with 2 aims and surge tokens. Oh, I rolled 8 damage. Okay, but I get 16 dice.
Yeah, exactly. It's that spread of like, do I attack them? Oh yeah. So okay, that makes, again, it's a gameplay aspect too. Like now it has a benefit to have those smaller attacks come out.
Right. Or is it going to encourage you to split fire more often? Because hey, if I can't beat him, I can still suppress him. Because I think any unit like that, you'd have to give him courage 1.
Oh yeah, that could be real dangerous. And then you have to rely on their commander for support.
You have to rely on the commander and
fire and everything. Ooh,
maybe you give a unit like that courage 1 and a special negative keyword that does not let them use their commander's courage. Maybe they're forced to use their own courage value. Maybe maybe
that courage 1 then, because that could be real. That'd be panic real quick. Maybe
it could be, but it all depends on where you cost them. If you want to have a unit that's affordable and has multiple defense dice, then that will be how you would defeat them.
I can see it. It's almost kind of like a throwaway distracting unit.
Yeah, it'd be hard to kill, but yeah, you shoot him a lot and scare him away. Would be the droid, the little remote that Luke attacks, right?
Oh, the training droids, yeah,
the training droids, something like that. Really hard to hit because hence 2 red defense die, but you scare it away because it's insignificant, right? Like, it's cool to like the different thoughts. Like, I don't think they'll put a training droid in the game, but I guess the mechanic of, you can balance things in a lot of different ways. So something that seems really strong could be balanced. But I think any mechanic you go to add to the game, you have to look at what's the most abuse somebody can cause from this. Because that's what players will do. And they'll find a training droid, I can just move it into melee with Luke, and now I can put 2 of them into melee with Luke, and now he can't disengage, or he can't just force push one away anymore. So I can take their commander out. I'm going to run 3 training droids and lock down all of you, and then...
Well, I mean, that's where, though, like, the rank system does come into play. Like, hey, yeah, you get great, you have 3 training droids, but now you have no special forces, or now you're, that could be a way.
It could be, yeah. So it's...
It has its balance. That's actually, and I appreciate the rank system now too.
the rank system is really interesting too. It's really caused. And I feel like the Empire has such a tremendous advantage there too because of the special forces, because of Entourage. Exactly.
Yeah, talking to the Rebel player. So yeah, I agree.
Yep. I'm hoping we see more Entourage too. I mean,
it's a topic for like, hey, who would be a good candidate for Entourage and all that. Like,
without because I don't think this will be worthy of a whole episode all by itself. But I would love to see Entourage B1 battle droids.
Jesus.
Or I was hoping like Dooku might have had Entourage B2s because you always see him with B2s. Yeah,
true. Well, do you think Grievous had Entourage? Those. Electro Guard.
Yeah, well, they could do multiple versions of Grievous too.
So, and there's always a chance for like an upgrade pack. Yeah, hey, this is a armament upgrade that you add to or something like that.
Oh yeah. There's use a slot. Maybe his training slot now is like Supreme General, and it's Grievous only, and now he gains Entourage and something else.
See, I like you have the that balance of like take away something but add something unique to make the gameplay doesn't mean it's the best, but it makes the gameplay different.
Sure, I mean Grievous is already expensive enough as is, so it may be an upgrade you don't want to give him, but. All right, so defense dice. I want to go a different direction, and let's spin it around. Talk about removing a defense die. So, what if we had units that had no defense die, no defense die whatsoever?
My brain goes to something really freaking big. Like, it has to have the health points to take the hits.
An AT-AT.
An AT-AT.
The one thing I want more than anything else, right?
But that seems weird because like Yeah, I guess still have armor. So it still has armor.
Yeah, so armor 1, right? But no defense dice, right? Like, yeah, or not armor 1, but armor, just straight up armor.
Yeah. What's that big droid carrier in Battlefront 2? It's
the Juggernaut.
Is it called a Juggernaut?
Wait, no. That's the Republic one.
Yeah. What's the one? It's like shaped like it.
Oh, the thing that drops off all the droids, the droid transport in episode 1.
Down and
yeah, like it sticks out the arm and it drops all the droids down and they stand up. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking. I don't know the name of but it's a droid transporter, a droid carrier.
It seems huge and slow, and
it's really it's much bigger than the AAT, but in theory, it's big enough that they could still put it in the game.
Yeah,
and that would be a really cool, like Transport 5 or something.
That'd be so cool.
That would be really
very
cool.
Very thematic too. And
you just roll it out and.
That would be expensive because it'd be line of sight blocking and all sorts of crazy stuff.
So you'd have to balance in that. So let's go with that unit just for a second, because I have some other ideas too. But let's say you did something like that and it was a big transport. I mean, you got to give it a lot of health, right?
Yes, at least. So what would be what's the right amount of health? Like,
how much?
Like I had a game the other day. Like I rolled 6 attacks, got 3 damage together.
Sometimes, right? Well, my thought process is like this. A unit like that, you're going to want to be able to move it out and deploy it. What you don't want to have to do is you don't want it to have to be the first unit you activate. And maybe I would go so far as to say you don't want it to have to be the second unit you activate either. So I think a balance point for something like that. Of course, it totally depends on where they cost it. Yeah. But I think you should be able to survive 2 rounds of attacks and still survive. So for me, I would guess somewhere around 20 hit points. For something with no defense, but then again, that only depends on if you. That's assuming you don't have armor.
So let's keep it thematic. We're facing this would be a droid, right? So we're facing against clones. Clones have fire support, so they can get those big hits off per round.
Right. But if it's droids, I think that thing might have had armor.
Okay. Yeah.
Because certainly if the AAT has armor, then that definitely would have armor. So if it has armor, I think you could probably give it like 9 or 10 hit points. I would give it 10 because I think, what does the AAT have? Like 7 or 8?
11.
It doesn't have 11. No. Well, let me pull it up because I'm curious now. But we have to make since it's not out yet. Because
rub that in a little bit.
That's one of my wish lists. Also, is for products to come out on time. That would be really nice, but we can't always have what we want.
I love you're saying like it's a first world, it's a big first world problem.
It is a definite first, and I'm definitely aware of that. Like, I'm really grateful to be able to have a game that I enjoy so much that I'm actually salty about not having product, because that means I actually look forward to something that much. It's great.
I haven't got my phase 2s yet. I'm still kind of bummed about that.
No, that's really weird. Like, phase 2s and B2 Super Battle Droids are like missing from so many stores all over the place.
Now.
And the AAT has 9 health. So
it's 9. Okay.
Yeah, I think you'd have to give the big transport probably 11 with armor.
Okay.
Probably 11. That sounds about right. Maybe more than that to be thematic. But if you're removing the defense die, you could probably get away with.
They did have guns on them too, so I would see 11. You know what? I would say 13. I think I have medium.
13 sounds good. But you'd have to give it a weaker armament though, because there's always that chance. Like, if you go up against somebody that doesn't have armor, they're never gonna kill that thing.
Yeah, no impact, no critical.
Right. So
but that forces people to make their list. You can't just be I do this one thing. You have to make a little bit more all-comers.
You need an all-comers list for that.
All-comers lists are a bit more fun.
Sure. Oh, no, they definitely are, because this way you go up against somebody who's like, oh, I'm running all heavy vehicles. I'm like, oh, okay, well, at least I have a way to deal with that, as opposed to just be like, well, all right, good game. I'll just see myself out.
Yeah, the hey, I gotcha list.
Sure.
You don't encourage good gameplay.
Sometimes, the gotcha lists are, I think those are really good for the kitchen table matches, or like, all right, well, let's see how this goes. But if you've driven somewhere to a big tournament, you've traveled really far, and you get caught with a gotcha list, because that's rough. Yeah. Okay, other units that might have 0 defense die. You were talking about a certain creature that I'm a big fan of.
A Rancor.
I would love it.
See it. And I would see them having maybe like armor, but armor like 3 or something like that, because they have scaly hide.
Yeah, like a certain amount of armor is pretty good. Like this way, you'd have to hit them with a concentrated attack, which would actually improve the value of vehicles. And we don't know, where vehicles are really going to land in the competitive scene. But
it sounds like they might be getting a little better.
They might be getting a little better, but all I can really say with certainty is how they have been, and they haven't always been that great. Like having 200 points, or even sometimes in some cases when the game was younger, more than 200 points invested into one unit that can do this awesome 6 dice attack. Or maybe Arsenal 2, maybe an 8 dice or 9 dice attack. Like that's great, but then when you roll it and you only get like 4 hits and your opponent dodges 3 of them, and you're like, oh, 200 points, I got 1 damage through.
And the Z16 next to you does the same thing for much less points.
Yeah, and maybe gets more damage through. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. But that would be good against somebody with armor 4 because you're going to want that big attack pool to try to punch through that, and then everything beyond that is just straight damage.
Exactly. I think with Rancor, we'll talk about that one day, but like just the scariness of this, I would say that one has to have like 20 health just to make it, because everyone wants to shoot. Is like a central like objective, like where it is the thing you were all afraid of, and you either have to kill it and claim like it's glory for the hunt, or hey, it's gonna try to kill our base kind of thing, and everyone's shooting at it.
A Rancor would be awesome. I would love to see. There's a lot of ways we could do that, and I do want to definitely do an episode where we talk about creatures, because I'd love to do a creature based episode, because I think there's a lot of ways we could talk about how to actually implement them, whether they're neutral, like whether they're a battlefield condition card, or whether they're actually being controlled by a player with like a creature tamer, and you put some type of berserk effect on there. If you kill the tamer, the monster goes berserk, and you roll a die to see what it does.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, and that'd just be fun.
That would be really fun.
It'd be really fun.
It'd be fun for a lot of things. It'd be fun for a scenario.
Or it can even almost be a tactic, like, hey, I run my guys in, kill the handler. Now my guys are loose in your army.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're going, but
I don't know if that would be worse than having the handler alive, though, because now he can actually direct them, towards the commander versus, I attacked the unit that only had 1 mini left anyway.
That's true.
So but no, like a Rancor is a great example. Because he's big and he's slow.
Yeah, and we have AI abilities, so now there's ways like kind of like do that.
That's absolutely true. I think AI is actually a really good blueprint. They might have to call it something else, but make it do virtually the same thing. Instinct, like slightly in the same way. You look at certain abilities that are virtually the same, but they're called something different, like relentless.
Yeah, or relentless.
And then you have charge, which is almost the same, and then steady, right? Yep. They're all doing kind of the same thing, but they're slightly different, and it's for maybe theme and also mechanical reasons. There's a mechanical reason to have a different keyword there, but you could do something like that for the Rancor, because it wouldn't make sense for the Rancor to have AI unless
cybernetic Rancor.
Cybernetic Rancor, right? Yes.
Giant scything claws with energy coming out of.
Wat Tambor captured this Rancor, put a computer in his head, and now he's shooting electricity. I know. it would be great. Okay, so I see a sandcrawler being something like that too.
Ooh, yeah.
That might be a little too big, but that's okay.
That'd be a great objective. Like in a sense, like that's blue player, red player. Blue player has to attack or defend the sandcrawler.
Yeah.
Armada has a objective like that where
the station, right?
The station, the protect stations. So that could be a neat objective.
Yeah, not everything has to be a unit, and especially if you're going to have a condition card, you could print some unit type, text on the, in the same way that like Minefields has some unit text with its attack. But like a Sandcrawler would be a fantastic one, and we've seen that in The Mandalorian already. Of course, you have to have a mini.
I said Jawas can kick some butt too, from what we've seen.
Well, they certainly have enough of them. I think Jawas that'd be a great gateway to start introducing like neutral characters and indigenous characters like Sarlaccs and Jawas and things like that.
They'd be great against droids, all ion weapons. Oh, yeah, it'd be really neat.
Oh my goodness, Jawas. Ultini. Yes. So I really like that. But now we've talked about a lot of like really strong abilities and some potentially really clever abilities too. But different ways to balance them. We talked about like some keyword stuff. I like the idea of you had brought up command cards doing it, and we mentioned this a little bit, but I like that. I think the command card way of getting something on here is just a great way to limit how often you can do it.
Exactly, and it can be you can make it very thematic. You can make it like we have those generic command cards. You can make it apply to anyone in some way, like as long as you word it right, and make it seem like it's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to do it, and it could come up like that. It's parts of strategy. Hey, this turn I know I want to do this taunt card to make everyone around me fire at me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the command card thing, and it's like, let's just say like if you don't want to make somebody like maybe you don't want to give Maul a permanent surge to double crit, or maybe you don't want to weaken his weapon to justify that. Maybe you don't want his lightsaber to have a bunch of white dice.
You want him to still be threatening on the board all the time, right. And then one time be really threatening.
Yeah, and so we've seen so many times where somebody's really, really threatening with their 1-pip. So maybe Maul's 1-pip gives him surge to double crit. When he surges to crit, you can write it this way. You probably wouldn't, or you just say when this turn when he surges to crit, you may add an additional die set to the critical face to his. So that's how you would do surge to. So this way.
And that avoids power creep too, because like Palpatine's multiple attacks is not as drawn as that. Like, because to me, like doing multiple attacks is or like one attack after another. It's way better than just one. You might, because surge is still a random element of the game. It's not I'm always going to get surge, because how many times have I've shot a 10-shot thing at Operative Vader and he's rolled no surge.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely it's not guaranteed. I think if this were going to be, so if you made Maul. Let's just say Maul is on the power level of Vader, in that ballpark. He'd be slightly less powerful than Vader, probably closer to Dooku, probably, but different. Gosh, it's hard to come up with a thing because somebody's always gonna be like, no, he's all right.
Exactly, you're right. They're all good in their own way.
Let's say actually Obi-Wan is probably a good example of the approximate power level that Maul should be. Give or take, right? Maybe a different dice pool. I think Maul should have maybe more dice because he's got twice the blade.
More aggressive, and he's more aggressive.
If we're specifically though, if we're saying Episode 1 Maul, right? I think he should get something that gives him a bonus if he's got damage on him, because his hate kind of is out of control, right? Maybe he gets to start with an aim token. Or what do the Phase 2s have?
Reliable.
Reliable. Maybe he gains reliable if he's got a damage on him. So he starts getting a surge because like a lot of Jedi, he doesn't have defensive surge. Maybe he doesn't have offensive surge. Maybe he's got critical 3, or maybe he has no crit, but he's got 8 red dice.
Yeah.
8 red dice could work.
Could work. Yeah, it could work. And see, you also got me thinking about the command cards. I don't think like the picture of like it's Maul, but like Qui-Gon's dissected, like you see Qui-Gon's body getting dissected, and Maul's like right there in between the dissection, and that's like the command card art.
Oh yeah, see, this is also an art-based podcast now
exactly.
too. You're gonna see that.
We both appreciate all the art because like we play the RPGs, and they have
yes,
the comms unit from our Rebels is from the RPG. That's where they.
By the way, have you gotten a chance to look through Starships and Speeders yet?
It's still my book.
Binder. It's good. It's really good. I was looking through it last night. It's gorgeous. I mean, but we know that though, because all of the RPG books are awesome. Yeah. But that's a great way to get ideas for all of this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have like the art between the RPG and other games. Like there's wealth of just like, hey, this could be really cool. Like I said that, so the art like me like Darth Maul dissecting Qui-Gon, and like that's like that'd be a great way to like say, hey, this is why this you get in critical 2 or whatnot. What would you like, Masters? Follow the Master or.
I don't know about names for it, but I mechanically, I'd love for his 1-pip to give him, the surge to double crit, and something else, probably tokens. What I would like is,
I think aims would be good because he get those surges.
Well, I would like for him to have, first off, I want him to have 8 red dice. Right. I only want to give him Pierce 2 to kind of balance that a little bit, because I think a lot of people would want to take Saber Throw with him. Because you're throwing 4 red dice, no surge, right?
We're on no surge. Okay,
yeah, no, right. But I also
3.
He might need to have relentless though. Maybe only charge. Actually,
I think charge. He seemed Yeah, I would say charge because he seemed very melee focused.
We never did see him, at least in the film, at least in episode 1, we didn't see him throw his saber. I don't know if I'm trying to recall if he throws his saber at all in the Clone Wars because I'm still doing a rewatch.
He does.
He may, but it's certainly not something he's known for.
Yeah. I would figure it's real unwieldy too. That's why they did the double-bladed Inquisitor spinny thing.
Most of Maul's fights, most of his signature fights involve him using, melee. You just no, he doesn't use force lightning. He doesn't do.
He's straight up brawler.
He's a straight up brawler. So actually, so charge makes a lot more sense.
Yep.
So I would like to see a way for him to get a standby at the end of his activation. This way, it's not as strong as Palpatine's doing as many attacks as he wants. It's not as strong as Vader's shuffling his order back into his pool. It's not as strong
as Cassian's. That's a balance, operative balance.
Right, but also you increase his cost too, because I think he should probably cost close to like what Commander Luke and he should probably be around 180 somewhere around there.
Oh yeah, like whatever operative Luke is what?
Well, I think he's like 200.
Yeah.
Yeah,
expensive.
Operative Luke is he's nasty. So yeah, Maul might have to be a 200-point card, and I mean I would pay it in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so if his one pip gives him the surge to double crit and at the end of his activation he gets that standby, he can then potentially attack twice, but it's going to be hard because you're going to have to be set up in the right spot, and you're also vulnerable to dying before that happens.
Yep, that's true. Yep. So there's. And or taking a range shot from far away. So hey, now he doesn't get to use the standby. So that could be very fun. It could also anytime you play a game right, a beautiful game is a beautiful game. You get if you get where you get him where he has standby, but he's right behind cover after he moves, it's perfect.
Right. Oh, he'd have to have a card called Kenobi, right? Yeah. But he doesn't have that as much style.
Kenobi.
Yeah, maybe he gets Jedi Hunter like Grievous had.
Yeah, Jedi Hunter makes perfect sense for him. It does because he does.
He was a Sith assassin, so that was
we're talking about operative. Operative Maul. Yeah,
operative Maul. Yeah, like the Commander Maul would be a little different. With his metallic legs, might change his movement a little bit. Like maybe you make operative Maul speed 3, maybe. But with charge, that might be a little too much.
Too much, yeah.
But
you're talking Tauntaun level here.
Okay, I've got it. Here's the thing. You make him speed 3, but you don't give him charge. His one pip gives him surge to the double crit, charge, and the standby.
Okay, that's a way to balance it.
It's strong, but if he's a 200-point character, that seems reasonable. And you could even balance that by making his 2 and 3 pips maybe less game breaking because you have to weigh all 3 of the command cards.
Yeah, if they're all 3 are good, then
like Palpatine has his are great. His 1 is amazing. His 2 is probably the best card in the game. The one that just says no, I'll choose who you activate first.
I've been on the end of that a few times. It's
insane. Now his 3 pip is good, but it's not
it's not the right home to Palpatine about, but
I think it's maybe a little better now than it was before, and then different people are going to disagree. But my point is it's not game breaking like the first 2 are. Like the first 2 are amazing. They're like S tier or God tier, and then that one's just good. And I think that's what you do. Like you give Maul at least if a 1 pip gave him those 3 things where he could potentially realistically attack twice with a surge to double crit. Yeah. That could be God tier, but you balance that by not giving him 2 other God tier cards.
Yeah. Well, and I can see because to me he's such a melee focused character. I think the reason why Dooku Grievous is relentless, right? Or
Grievous can get relentless with I think a command card.
I don't think he has a relentless in.
Oh, he might. I think he does. Yeah, I haven't run it. He has relentless. Yeah, he's got Arsenal 2 and relentless.
Yeah, so I think Dooku. The reason why I see Dooku because he's very calculating. So I think Maul should. I still think Maul should always have charge.
He probably should have charge. Yeah.
Vader has it. I think Maul should have it. So what would he make? So maybe give him relentlessly. Maybe on the 1 pip, so he has the 1 saber throw.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. I don't think you give him relentless because if he's not going to have, he's probably not going to have a ranged attack.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would love here's a cool thing. Since we're we're kind of winding this down, and I think we're probably good with the surge to double crit talk, but if you're going to make multiple versions of Maul, which I think you kind of have to at some point, because I think you're going to make a version of the Darksaber that can be equipped to Maul.
Okay.
But can the Darksaber... Obviously, you make the Darksaber come with the Death Watch, like that the Clone Wars version of Maul.
Yeah, like a little sub-faction thing.
Right, because that's iconic. That's, he united Mandalore and maybe, sub-factions and all of that stuff. But is there then a way to take that same Darksaber and equip it to Operative Maul? My guess is no, because here's the way I imagine it to work. My guess is that your Commander Maul will have the armament upgrade, so he'll have the slot to take the Darksaber, and Operative Maul won't have that, right? Because he's holding his double-bladed saber, so he doesn't have room for the Darksaber.
Yeah, and that's he's focused. So an idea about also limiting. He's a brawler, right? Don't see him use Force much at all. He doesn't have Master of the Force, so his Force abilities can't be tapped.
Brilliant. I mean, he really doesn't, right? He
never really. We know he can do it, but he doesn't really do it often.
Well, when he's older, he does. Right.
Yeah,
Operative Maul probably doesn't. That's a great limiter, because now all those great force powers he's got.
You can do it once or you can recover, but that's a risk.
Yeah, especially for a speed 3 unit. You really want him to recover? Maybe you do.
Oh yeah, that's the way to keep him at speed 3 too. Is like, yeah, he's got all this, but he is a brawler. So then he makes him somewhat predictable too. So it's counterplay.
And that works like in the movie when he had to stop and recover before his fight with Qui-Gon. Maybe that's how he won, because he was doing a recover. He was pissed. He was not happy that he had to recover, so he's just like, whereas Qui-Gon's like, no, this is natural. This is part of the game. I have Master of the Force. I don't have to get angry.
Exactly.
When Maul was like, you making me waste an action to recover? All right, fine. I'm going to have surprise at that. No, exactly. That's a really cool idea.
I'm going to kill you in front of your Padawan.
Yeah, no, that's wow, yeah, like there's so many really cool things you could do there. Like
makes Jedi, I think they're unique. There's so many keywords you can just give them differently to make them different. Like that's a whole other topic. Like
I would love to do an episode just talking about Jedi.
Which ones we want and all
that.
But I think Maul for search. I would say the one pip. He's got the search double crit, and that would make it that explosive hit.
That would be fun. All right. Well, I think that is probably a good point for us to kind of wrap things up. So, Sean, for people who want to see more, Sean, you've got a YouTube channel. We're going to put that in the description.
So, Slow Building YouTube channel. I'm just doing a lot of painting stuff, building stuff for GW right now. I'm going to do some clones here soon. I promise.
And you've been doing a lot of Warcry, right? Yeah, so the GW.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of Warcry. It's building my wife's warband. Warcry, it's fun, on the side of Legion. I also have an Instagram that's pretty good under the same name. We'll link that as well.
We'll put the links, but it's Prehistoric Painting on YouTube and
Prehistoric Painting on Instagram.
And Prehistoric Painting on Instagram. And of course, me, Crabbok, and I just kind of do about everything. All right, guys. Well, stay tuned. We're going to be back at this pretty soon with some more episodes talking about other wish list ideas, and you just have to see what comes up in the future. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us and for listening through, and I will talk to you guys later, and that is just about it. All right. Thank you guys again for watching, and have a great day.